Hey, I'm Tim, and I generated $483,000 in closed won revenue and $791,000 in pipeline from one-to-one ABM ads in 3 months. One-to-one ABM ads are a way to get in front of mid-market enterprise accounts. You can do this all through LinkedIn ads, but you're specifically targeting certain accounts with a specific message that speaks right to that company. Hey, Dropbox, hey, HubSpot, whatever that is, you can speak directly to them. And again, you can do this all through LinkedIn ads. You don't need anything, ABM tools or specific tech outside of that. We did use Mutiny for personalized landing pages, but you really don't need that just to run these. We use 2 people, someone within LinkedIn ads building out the campaigns, and then a designer to create the ads for each of the accounts and the ads within LinkedIn's ads. Again, we did use personalized landing pages, which I also built, so one person, but again, you really don't need that, but it can help. Any company that wants to break into enterprise accounts, hire mid-market type of accounts, with at least one person in the marketing team, one designer, can and should try this approach because it really does stick out, and you can get in front of those accounts that you've been trying to break into that sales would love to talk to.
If that resonates with you, listen along. Also, check out our other episodes. You're listening to TLDR, the B2B SaaS growth podcast brought to you by Spear Growth. The goal of the podcast is to enable you, our listeners, to generate an additional $100,000 in cumulative pipeline by May 2024. To do this, we bring people who have made a real impact in their companies. They cut through the fluff and dive deep into one tactic or strategy of theirs. I'm your host Ishan. Let's generate pipeline.
Hey Tim, thank you so much for joining this. You're known for a couple of different things, right? And so I think it's the same thing that I know you for as well. I think I know that you're known for, people have told me about you in different ways, right? You're known as the guy with the best shirts. I know you as the fruit cutting ninja, right? I know you as the guy who held up the you go to events and then you hold up the placards, right? So these are all the different things, but I think I was following you back when I think you're at your stint at your previous agency. That's when I used to sort of look at, hey, Tim Davidson is talking about different things, and I think used to be a lot more. I think now you're a lot more creative than you were earlier back then. So I think I've been following you since back then. So it's great to finally speak with you. Thank you so much for doing this.
No, thanks for having me. Yeah, appreciate that. That's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting last 3 years, and I would say I have gotten more creative and confident, I would say, to be creative. I probably wouldn't have done some of that stuff earlier on.
The stuff you do, if someone tries to make those videos, I think that's when you understand it's not easy. So, like, that's amazing. Okay, getting right into, or before that, right? If someone doesn't know you, can you just quickly give a couple of lines introductions for anyone listening?
Absolutely. Name's Tim Davidson. I am so now I'm a one-person company, a founder of a company called B2B Rizz, which is a LinkedIn ads and ABM consulting for B2B SaaS. But I'm also very active on LinkedIn. I call myself a semi-funny B2B content creator. I create a lot of videos on LinkedIn specifically around B2B marketing, sales, what's going on, what's wrong, what's not. But yeah, I think that's the gist of it. That pretty much sums it up. I'm really bad at summaries or intros.
Love it. I think anyone sees your content, Tim is definitely selling himself short. Like someone definitely should follow. Right? Coming back into what you do and the topic that we've picked up, right? So running one-to-one LinkedIn ads for companies. This is something that I think every time a customer of mine sees it, they ask for it. We've tried a bunch of times. Sometimes it works. There's very specific cases where you can actually run it. There are very specific cases where it works. There's a lot of operational stuff on how to actually run it. Otherwise, it just can take all of your time. So I think this is going to be really fun to just get into it. So let's start with just getting back into the results. Like, can you just walk me through the results that you mentioned again?
Yeah. So I got my notes here. So this is one specific time. I've run it for a few different companies, but in this one specific instance, it started off as a 3-month test, and the closed one from it was $483,000. The spend was $16,300, and the pipeline was $791,000. So pretty good overall, in my opinion.
Love that. Okay, and then what was if you can share, how many deals were they? Like, for example, you said pipeline is 700 something, 600 something was closed. Like,
Yeah,
how big
that
was
was
one deal? Yeah.
yep. So that was 2 deals. Now this was more of like, because when on ABM ads, obviously it needs a certain audience size because it isn't LinkedIn, but also it's more enterprise accounts that you're kind of going after. So that was 2 deals, and then the pipeline was 4 deals.
And I'll ask this first, but why do you say those 4 deals came from your ads? I think that's an important
Yeah.
question to ask.
So yeah. So to be clear, it's not like they. So one did convert specifically from the ad. They clicked on the ad and then they converted. I was looking at number of different things for this. One was like time frame. Okay, so we launch it. To be clear, we've been running enterprise ads to many different accounts for a long time. It's not like we just started this as the first thing we ever did. But it was like a time frame. All right, here's we start it, and then because we're only running it to a certain number of accounts, how many accounts came in from those? How many accounts that we were targeting came in after that? The other thing we did was obviously the UTMs, like looking at, okay, they clicked, and then they converted either directly or later on. The other thing we were looking at was just, how did you hear about us? So for this one specifically, we're marketing to marketers, so they are more inclined to say, oh, it was something very specific. As we mentioned, I am also very active on LinkedIn, so I also have people that screenshot the ad and were like, oh, I saw your ad. I was like, okay, that's great. And then sales calls, like someone did mention on a sales call as well. So we're looking at a number of different things. Obviously, there's other things we're running, so those helped too. But the deals did come from after we started running it, and then they closed on after that, basically.
Love that. Yeah, I think the way we call it is how many deals had meaningful amount of engagement before they close, right? I think that's the best way I've found to put it. Like,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
again, it's just, and then you need to define meaningful in different ways for every single company, depending on everything. Okay, perfect. Let's get into actually running it. Like, how big was, like, one, how big were the companies, but then also you said you were running to marketers. So how big was the marketing department in each of these companies? And the reason I'm asking that is, were you targeting the entire company or only the department?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the range, there's definitely a variance of ranges. So this isn't a company that closed, but one of the accounts that we were targeting was HubSpot, huge company, right? Like, it's a very big company. Their marketing department's probably like 700 people. Very easy, awesome. But we were also targeting smaller companies that were probably like 500 employees. And so their marketing departments aren't going to be 300. So just for context, this was run all through LinkedIn ads. And you have a minimum audience size of 300 to run it. And so for the companies that were 500 employees, we would target the marketing department, but that audience size would probably be it's going to be way under 300. And so what we ended up doing is, there was kind of like a methodology to it, but like, all right, marketing, if it didn't hit the audience size, let's add in the next thing. And that would usually be sales, because they talk to them the most, right? You could also do the countries to see if that would open it up. And then you just kind of go down the line of, all right, what's the department that's going to be closer tied to that? And so you're not typically targeting the whole company, but a good amount of it if it's 500 employees.
Yeah. I think you have to do it. It's very hard to find companies that have large enough departments and stakeholders to really go after. Interesting. Okay. So, and then how many companies were these? Like, just roughly.
Yeah. So I mentioned it was a 3-month test. So what we did was we started with 50 companies, and we run that for the first month. And then so every month we would actually end up switching out probably, I think it was like 30 to 35 of the companies. We wouldn't switch out all the companies, but we'd switch out probably 30 to 35 based off of engagement. Like if we saw a good engagement, or if we saw some sort of signal, then we would keep it on, or we'd turn it off because it had too much engagement. It's just like, all right, we don't need to do that anymore. And we would try to add in more companies every month. So we ended up targeting overall probably 160 companies total.
That's very interesting that you actually switched companies out. So can you just sort of let's get into it, like on what was the logic of switching? Like, yeah, I've got too much engagement, is taking up all of my budget. But then in this case, it must be in different campaigns, right? So you could maybe, that shouldn't be an issue. That's why I'm trying to sort of figure it out.
Yeah. So it's 1-to-1. So each company had its own campaign. So you ended up running, if you started off with 50, you have 50 different campaigns. The thing with that is we didn't have an unlimited budget, and every company is going to have a certain amount of budget. Now, the daily budget for LinkedIn is about $10 to $12. So, that would be $300 for each account. So what we would end up doing is every month just adding in more companies. And it wasn't like perfect. All right, we stopped this 35 and then we add in more. Sometimes we just added in more. And then we had like 60 running at a time, or 70 running at a time, or we paused and we had less. It just kind of depended on what was going on, because we had other things going as well. And because what we would do is pick the companies based off of, it's not perfect, but like the LinkedIn engagement. So if we saw like a company, I was trying to prove it out also. So I'm trying to pick and choose the companies that would be more likely to convert, essentially. So if they had higher organic and paid engagement on LinkedIn, like the LinkedIn insights, I would cherry pick those companies based off of our account list. And so I would try to pick and choose based off of that. Or if a company was just, sometimes they were spending too much. And so we just had to pause it because we had other things running, like email campaigns, we had other things running too. So it was just kind of like figuring out what is the best mix there.
And if someone's listening and they need to figure out, okay, how do I budget this out? Let's say if someone decides, hey, I want to do this. Let's say I have $10,000 of budget. I know that's that's a known. I cannot spend more than 10K. How many companies can I go ahead and do one-to-one campaigns with? How do they do the math?
Yeah, so if you think about it, you can do, so 10,000, if you have $10,000, is that a month or
a month?
3 months?
Let's say a month, right? So and we do it for 3 months, right? 30K for 3 months. Gotcha. How many companies should I go ahead and?
So, I mean, you could actually get, just trying to do quick math, because if you think about daily budget of 300, now it doesn't have to be a daily budget. You could set a lifetime budget of it for the campaign, and then you could set that at lower amount, so you don't have to spend $300 for each account. For that kind of budget, if you did the $300 per day, or sorry, $300 per month for each campaign, that would be about 33 accounts. I would try to get to 50 or a little bit more, because you still, at the end of the day, are looking at timing, right? So you want a good amount of accounts that you're doing this for, but not too little, or not too much, I mean. So you're trying to find a good fine line. I think with 10,000 a month, you could do easily 50 to 60 accounts.
I really like what you just said, because at the end of the day, it's about timing. I will, we have to get into that. I'll just wrap up the budgeting bit. Got it. And then you can and then how the 50 accounts, when you do it, how do you spread them out? Right? Like,
yeah, so you'd want to spread it out based off the audience, essentially. So like I mentioned earlier, HubSpot, if they got 700 people, they're probably gonna need that $10 a day budget. A company that is 500 employees, that that the marketing department's maybe 100 people, or not even close, like way less than that, then they can maybe do $150 for the month. So you basically want to base it off the audience. So what I actually ended up doing is I had a Google sheet that had, it was more of a tracking thing too, just so I can know what accounts I was doing, so I'm not overlapping. Account audience size, and then I was be able to track it like that. So then you can say, all right, here's the budget for each of those based off the audience size.
Perfect. Still sticking to targeting. I want to get to messaging. I want to get to timing and all of that. But still in targeting, when you did this, what percentage of your budget was just going to non-stakeholders, right? Like if you just had to, I know it's impossible for you to give an accurate number, but still, like if you had to just take a wild, like some guess, like hey, it'll be close to this part of my money went to departments that I didn't really care about.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, again, we were trying to pick out the departments that'd be closer to marketing, sales, even finance might be closer to them because marketing team should be talking to finance or the founders, CEOs, things like that too. Maybe third, for some of those companies that are 500 employees, it could be 80%, but the messaging we had was actually speaking to marketers. So we would call out marketers in that. And so in theory, if they saw it, the marketing, they'd either share it with their marketing team. Ideally, we had some salespeople share it with their marketing team, which was awesome. Because like I mentioned, the personal brand thing, people share it with me. But then also just, if we're calling them out, ideally it's the marketing team that's going to be engaging in it rather than the other stakeholders.
Makes sense. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. And so then if I had to take a number, so for smaller companies, maybe 60 to 80% of your budget might just be going to other departments. If it just depends on how big the department is in that company. And then if you wanted to calculate for your own audience, look at what percentage of your companies have a 300% department. All of them is 100% in your ICP.
Otherwise, and the other thing is like marketing and sales are going to be more active on LinkedIn. The engineering team, if you're targeting an engineering team, they're not going to be as active. So it's unlikely that my ads in this scenario are getting in front of the engineering team. So it's not like as big of a deal in my opinion.
Makes sense. Awesome. Getting to the messaging, or let's get to what did the ad look like, right? So why you're doing so much more work? It's less efficient. So the amount of work you're doing is much higher. The way you're targeting is less efficient. The reason why you still do it is because the ad is just so much better. It just overtakes or just makes up for everything else. So what did you just slap a logo on and just say, hey, I'm done? Like, or was there anything else in that?
Yeah. So it actually didn't take as much time as I thought it would take, because basically, here's the setup. So, all right, we built the campaign, and basically that's just duplicate, switch out company, switch out whatever I need to do. And then for the ads, what I would do is I basically built out a template for the ad. So each campaign had 2 ads. So 2 variations here, and all the creative team had to do was switch out the logo. Now we've been doing this for a while. We spent a lot on ads, so we knew the messaging that would resonate with our ICP. But the things that would change is basically, all right, hey, and then maybe it would be logo. And then the message would still speak to marketers. It would still speak to what they really care about, have some social proof at the bottom. And there was definitely different variations that we tested over time. But it was essentially 2 variations where the creative team only had to switch out the logo. So they can create, 150 ads very quickly, or 300 ads very quickly.
And do you think it made enough of a difference, like seeing your own logo?
Yes, because also the copy also was switched out too, so it would also call them out there as well. But also so we also used a landing page. We used Mutiny for landing pages, and
got it.
Again, you can set up a template. So the UTM, if it has the company name in it, it'll switch out that name in certain different parts.
Nice.
And so that was another aspect to it. But it did, because we were seeing 8 to 12% click-through rates, and outside of 8 to 12%, which is crazy. Like, yeah, like LinkedIn ads click-through rates outside. And this is not thought leader ads. This is image ads. Yeah, that's how crazy it was. So like it stuck out that much that they were like, oh, okay, this is interesting.
We've done the same things. I remember we did once for, and just question for you also. I remember once we did it. It was a infosec company. We just ran it, and then we sort of got people very angry at us that, hey, how are these companies using our logos for their marketing? Because they just thought we're doing that with everyone. So then it was just like, hey, like take it down, otherwise, blah, blah, blah. So I think it resonates more with marketing and sales. Have you tried with other teams? Because when I did, it kind of backfired. Like it wasn't a big deal. I heard one guy got very angry. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, so I haven't tried it with security or like anything like that. So maybe I would stay away from that maybe. But I tried it with like sales tech, fintech, like finance, going after finance and stuff like that. No one's had any issues. I've talked to people that have done it, and things to probably stay away from are maybe cybersecurity, like in infosec, things like that. And I'm also told that anything in Germany, stay away. I guess they will slap a cease and desist on you very quick. So stay away from Germany as well.
Yeah. I mean, I remember once I made a custom ad for a different brand, and I emailed it to them, and they got angry at me. I'm like, but this is to you. This is like you run it, right? But yeah, anyway. So if anyone's listening, you're doing it, this will happen. It doesn't matter, honestly. Like if they say something, sure, just take it down, right? Like,
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Coming back to, so you seeing like 8 to 12% CTRs, which is crazy, and it's crazier when you think about the fact that a lot of that impression is going to people not in your ICP, which it's just hard to even imagine like how is that happening. Was 8 to 12 like on the higher end, or
That was the average. I mean, there were some that were like really even higher. There was some obviously lower too.
Yeah, of course.
But this was
Wow.
very, very, again, marketing to marketers. Like and I know some of it's going, but if we're talking to HubSpot, it's going to be all marketers, right? If it's some of those bigger companies.
It's still, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting.
Wow. Okay. Love that. Okay, and then so you did see a big in a huge difference for anyone listening. Average on LinkedIn is 0.4. If you do a good enough job with messaging and all of that, you usually get to see 1.2, 1.5% CTR. And Tim, like, just
I mean, you're jumping up and down for 1%. You're excited. You're super excited. This is very crazy. I was blown away.
8 is insane. I think I've seen 8, but that's when we did thought leadership, and then that's cheating.
Yeah.
That's not really 8, but like if you're a LinkedIn ads marketer, you know what I mean, right? But getting back into so we have the messaging. So what did the message say? If you can share, what exactly did, or like like anything, like, hey, like. Or can you give a parallel example of what it could say for someone else, if not here?
Yeah. So the message was all the goal with it, right? For the 1-to-1 is like, all right, get them to stop. We want them to stop scrolling and then read the message. So in the message, we did still say, what we do, who we are, and I think the social proof is also very impactful, and I just think social proof is huge for something like this. So in all the images we had at the bottom, like trusted by, and then it would be like some logos. One thing I should mention is for back to like the cybersecurity, we're starting to marketers. We did try to switch out the logos when it was a specific sub industry. So if it was fintech or cybersecurity, we tried to switch out the logos there. We did that with Mutiny as well, the landing page. But yeah, the social proof was always at the bottom, trusted by, and then those logos. I think the 2 variations that we ran one was about, just talking about what they cared about, like hitting their growth goals. And then another one was, this was like during like the do more with less type of era where everyone's talking about that. Yeah. So like we try to make it a little timely on that part of it. So we were always trying to put messaging out there that spoke to what they actually cared about, like not just save time and money, is more like, all right, hitting your growth goals, you can't miss those type of things. And then in the message, the copy, we always put the social proof again, like iterated, all right, what we actually do and who it's for. So we're very specific on like calling out B2B marketers in the copy, and calling out specific social proof in what we actually do.
Just a couple of more follow-up questions here, because again, I've done the same thing, very similar. I didn't see such a high CTR for a lot of our tests. So just wanted to know, okay, there has to be some other element as well, right? So what were you offering? Was it a, hey, get on demo with me, or hey, let's speak? What was it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was the call to action wasn't even salesy, which was odd. I think I did something very weird. I was like, at the end, I was like, if you're interested, like, we'd love to talk to you. If not, have a great night or day. It was something like that. Like that, there was no like real call to action. I will say something that probably played a part in it. I mentioned earlier, picking with the accounts that we picked was based off of like the insights of who was having higher engagement organically and paid. So I do wonder if that had a part, right? They were already kind of understanding who we were. And then this was like oh, okay, great. This is ad speaking specifically to me. I'm already aware of your company because of all the engagement that I'm picking those accounts based off of. And again, we're also doing a ton of other things around it. So it's not like this was the only thing. I think picking those accounts probably had a big factor. Like if I just picked random accounts from our account list, and we had like for these kind of 500 plus employee companies, there's probably like 5,000 or 3,500 or something companies in there. I can't remember exactly, but I was cherry picking ones that had higher engagement based off of the LinkedIn insights.
Yeah, I think that's a good insight. Yeah, because we've tried this. So if anyone is trying this, just FYI, I tried it from the messaging side. It didn't give that much higher of a CTR. So yeah, I think that making the audience better is something that definitely makes a big difference. Okay, nice. Getting back to the team that you had to that worked on this, right? So I think, so can you just walk us through every single person, like the designers, people managing the tech on the website, everything? What did that team look like for this campaign?
So for this one, it was a little scrappy. It was just me and then a designer. I would actually work with, I've done it other times where it's a designer, me kind of facilitating, and then having someone else kind of build the campaigns. But in this example, it was me and a designer.
And who was sort of, you had to set up Mutiny and then you had to change some stuff on the landing page. Who was doing that?
That was me.
Okay, got it. So
it was not crazy, by the way. It was not the craziest landing page. It was landing page that we were kind of using, but we changed out the customization parts where, based off the UTM, change this name, change these logos, change this, this image or whatever it was. It's not like I was designing the landing page. We already had a good landing page that we were using for other things.
Got it. Perfect. Awesome. And then in terms of stages, right? Let's say someone's sitting down to do this today. What would be stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4? What does that look like?
Stage 1 would be probably the creative. So figuring out, okay, what are those templates? So like I mentioned the variations. All right, what are those templates going to be? Okay, never mind. It's going to be the accounts because you need those for the creative. I was going to say creative because so they can get them done while you do the other stuff. But it's picking the accounts first and then building out the templates for the creative so that you can send them to the designer. If you're doing that as well, that's craziness. But if you're doing that as well, then okay. But so you can send it to the designer. All right, here's the companies that we need to switch out the logo, and here's the 2 variation templates. And then so they can create those. That'd be like step 2 is the templates and the creative. Step 3 would probably be the landing page because building the accounts, you want all that other stuff first. So building out the landing page, you really don't need a landing page for this. It's going to help for sure, but you really don't need it. But building out the landing page, and then step 4 would be once you get the creative, once you get the link so you can switch out the UTMs, then it's building out the campaigns within LinkedIn.
Awesome, love that. And if there's anything that so you said you've done it since then, you've changed up the team. What are other things that you've been thinking about doing differently? Like, is there something that you say, hey, in this time, maybe I would have done that, or I would have tried that, or maybe this follow-up thing wasn't that well, or maybe I would have set up the accounts in a different way. Was there anything that you would do differently?
I think it's going to depend on every company, right? But I think the important part there that we even talked about was the account selection. I think that's super important. And obviously there's new tools and even LinkedIn's giving us better tools that you can pick accounts based off of. So just using those, I think is going to be super helpful. The other thing would just be the things around it. We had other things around it, but there wasn't anything specific. Like, I'm not that good at like this whole AI automation Zapier stuff, but if I could set up, like Slack notifications to the sales team based off of certain engagements, like I think that stuff would be super helpful, or an automated emails or something like that. I think that would be super helpful based off of, the engagement we're seeing with LinkedIn ads for those accounts.
By the way, we've just built an automation for that in-house. We just built it into a tool because it was just. I'll show it to you.
Okay.
that was just so much
awesome.
work. I'll show it to you. Yeah, but yeah, it's been the visualization all has been very helpful. Perfect. Coming back to like who should do this, right? And like. Yeah, like which companies, and this, you can also maybe include your initial hypothesis for this, that, hey, I thought this is what will happen. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But yeah, like what's your initial hypothesis, and then who else should try and do it?
Yeah, so the hypothesis was, quite frankly, we were having a hard time breaking into kind of like the more enterprise, bigger accounts. We were very good at like the mid-market. We were really good at that with our advertising, and just I was having a hard time breaking into those bigger accounts. And so the hypothesis was, okay, why don't we test something that's going to stick out? We're marketing to marketers in this scenario. They love good marketing. If we can figure out how to show them, pretty good marketing and stick out to them, this might be a way to get our value props or what we're due in front of them. So that was the hypothesis, right? Like, how do we break into these enterprise accounts with something that's going to stick out in the feed, especially?
Look, I missed asking a question to you, which is a very, very tough question that I get asked when I do this all the time. So I want to see how you answer it. To everyone that asks that, hey, like, won't these accounts just come on their own, even if you didn't run the ads, if you just did everything else? How can you even not say that, LinkedIn ads did anything here? What do you say to them?
So, I mean, it might have been true. But I looked at many different things, right? The UTMs, I could see people clicking them. The click-through rate I mentioned, like there's something happening there. People obviously, they could send me screenshots. That's awesome too. I've had people, I heard on sales calls, people mentioning them. Again, the landing page, that was a specific landing page. So I knew the UTMs that were on there. So I knew exactly how many people were going to those pages. So in theory, and you could say this about anything, maybe they would have came to us. But from the engagement and all the things I can see, it looked like it helped, at least.
Yeah, that's exactly what we say. We basically just go and say that, hey, here's the report, all the accounts that closed, and this is the engagement, and this is all the proof. I'm not saying this happened because of us. Give all the credit to sales, give all the credit to whoever you want to. I'm just saying that it probably had an impact. And if it did, give me some more budget.
Exactly. And then there's the time, right? Like, all right, we started this, and you're starting to see more enterprise accounts. Coincidence? Maybe. But maybe not.
Yep.
Yeah,
love that. I think this is great. Is there anything I should have asked you that I missed asking you?
I think, you asked, who should do this. I think we mentioned this earlier. If you're targeting Germany companies, you shouldn't do it. I'm serious. Like, I was talking to someone recently and they got a cease and desist. Like, just don't do it. I think I'm sure someone has done this for more of those cybersecurity companies, the people that are going to get weird about it. I do get this question asked a lot. I've never had any issues, but I've typically marketed to not marketing, doing these for those type of companies. So if you're doing that, I would maybe just just be hesitant or maybe not start there. Just because obviously getting those kind of questions is tough. It's not going to feel good, especially when you put the time in to do it. The other thing I should mention that I thought was interesting is because I time myself doing this. It took me under 3 minutes. Once I had the creative and landing page, like to create a new campaign, it took me less than 3 minutes for each campaign. So I can get 50 accounts done once I have everything done. Very, very easy. And you can teach someone to do that. So you can hire, a virtual assistant or, a specialist to just do it, a couple hours.
Perfect. Yeah, I think this was great. I think there was a lot of different nuances in how to do it and different things. And yeah, I think this has been really helpful. How long it takes, when does it, I think this is useful. How to even ask for budget for this stuff, how to budget. I think this was a pretty good episode. I think we covered everything on one-to-one accounts, what to expect. If someone else is doing it this year, 2% CTR on these, do you think it's a win?
A 2%? Oh yeah. I think 2%. Right? You got to remember, click-through rate on LinkedIn's low. It's just low. Outside of thought leader ads, those are kind of like skewed. Yeah. It's different. But if you get a 2% click-through rate, there's something going on there, and that's really, really good. Like think about it. You mentioned earlier, 0.4% is the average. That's 4x higher. Like that's a huge difference.
Yes, and that's something that I just. If someone's doing it, don't expect a 8 to 12% right? No. Just 2%, you're good, right?
2% is really good. Yeah, not. Exactly.
Perfect. Love this. Thank you so much for doing this, Tim. We have to record one more. I think that'll be really fun too. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the TLDR podcast. In case you're wondering, Spear Growth is a marketing agency. We help B2B SaaS companies like yourself with ads and SEO. Check out our website at speargrowth.com. That is SPEARGROWTH.com. Just like this, every episode starts with a 1-minute summary of what we discuss. Pick the next episode to listen to based on what you can implement right away. And after you implement any of these tactics and see an impact, we'd appreciate you drop us a note on podcast@speargrowth.com.